attribute treatment interaction. It's called ATI. David Hunt. You have what you have learned. David Hunt is the matching, mismatching guy, right? So teaching methods and teaching objectives should interact with students, or well, in David Hunt's term, it's called matching. Okay? Should match what students' cognitive development or conceptual level. Okay, conceptual level is not a permanent classification. It is the current preferred style of learning. Now, so here you see later on we have what, say low CL, then what we have medium and high CL, that type of thing, right? So the CL, of course, is a function of IQ, but then more importantly, it is a function of developmental stage, as you will see later on. Okay, for example, concrete operational stage, we tend to classify this as low CL. So it does not mean low IQ. Okay? So for the rest of this lecture, the low CL has to do with what developmental stage. All right. So the art of teaching means what? Matching the teaching methods and teaching objectives with the CL of the students. So this is called the ATI model, the attribute treatment interaction model. All right. Now, so the notion of matching and mismatching is this here. Remember, William James start where the learner is. Let's say this is, well, let's say, well, yeah, this is the learner's level. Okay, this is the teaching material, right? So start where the learner is. So wow, a lot of time we know the approximate level of the students in a class. Okay, so let's say what CL conceptual level is here. Then the teaching material, let's say here, the teaching material to start where the learner is. So it should be here, right? And after a while, the mismatching, it goes up to here, but the child is still here, or the students are still here. And after a while, the student will want to move up. Okay. They move up to here. Wow, so they have what? They are operating in a higher level than before. Then teacher will change. I use the wrong color, but pardon me. Okay, I use one color. Okay. Then the teacher will what change. So here, a mismatch with this, is that right? So this creates what knowledge disturbance or dissonance, cognitive dissonance. So then what? We human beings, we have a tendency to resolve the dissonance. So we'll what? Okay. So we will try to learn. So therefore, what after a while it's here. Good. Then at this level, the students are operating at a much higher level than before, than where they started. And so then here, the teacher move up the ladder, okay, one step. So another one mismatch here, all right? I'll use this here. Okay, so this is a mismatch. And that one, of course, the student will do, oh, yeah, matching. So it is gradual one, matching, mismatching, matching, mismatching, matching, mismatching. So that was here, the mismatch is not a big difference, right? So the teacher, it says the art of teaching. The teacher will have to manage that, okay? Will have to manage that. All right. Take a look at what characteristic of stages of conceptual level of CL. Low CL, mostly concrete operational stage, Piaget concrete operational stage, while the students are still young. Remember 7-11, okay? All right, so at this stage, thinking is what? Concrete and stereotype. They tend to what? In terms of Bloom's taxonomy, they tend to be operating at level 1, okay? Level 1 knowledge, okay? Some comprehension, but then remember, their thinking is quite rigid. Rules cannot be changed. Remember that? All right. So rules are fixed and unchangeable. Okay, so the thinking rigid, obedience to authority is unquestioned. So this is one. This one here, and socially conforming. These two aspects here will likely promote some teachers to become authoritarian, right? Because of these two conditions. Anyway, preference for highly structured materials and learning activities. Okay, they want to be to follow the rules. They want to just follow the standard, you know. So they prefer highly structured materials. Anxious of closure. What is that? That is to say, they like to receive the answer, say yes to the question or no. So they want something solid. Because remember, at this stage here, right is right, wrong is wrong. There is no in between, right? So they are not comfortable with gray matter. They say middle, something in the middle gray, okay? So they need closure. They need to know whether it is this or that, okay? So there's no middle of the road. All right, so in this case here, teacher provides highly structured, as highly structured materials and teaching method, okay, and teaching method. So highly structured, okay? So for high structure materials, okay, and teaching method, explicit assignments. So tell them what to do, okay? Okay, you want to do this, okay, answer this question, yes or no, okay, and then what, copy this, that type of thing. Frequent feedback. So that is to say what frequent feedback as the teacher directed or teacher guided. Because what problem solving tends to be rigid at this stage. So the feedback will be what teacher directed. Okay, there is almost no exchange between the students and the teacher, okay? Because the students just would like to receive those feedback and what they just follow, no questions asked. Okay, consistent and concrete reinforcement. Consistency, accentuate the positive, concrete reinforcement so that what they could see it. Nothing abstract at this stage. And remember, 7-11, concrete operational stage. So direct method would be appropriate. For example, like what transmitter of knowledge, or suppose what expository or receptive learning method, aiming at Bloom's what levels 1 to 2 objectives. All right. So for low CL, moderate CL, and let's take a look. Moderate CL. So here, moderate CL are for students who are in between concrete operational stage and formal operational stage. But I remember, even if the students are in the concrete operational stage, there is something, remember, called the modal stage +1. So modal stage, most of the time, they are within the concrete operational stage. But then from time to time, there is a preference toward a higher stage. So that's called the modal stage +1. All right. So here, would moderate CL, okay, there is some tendency to move on to a higher level of operation. All right. So in concrete operation, students, they don't like gray area, okay? They don't like uncertainty, okay? So they are rigid in their thinking. However, here, the moderate CL, well, there is some tolerance for uncertainty. Not a lot, but I'm beginning to have some tolerance for uncertainty. And then they begin to have awareness of alternatives. Okay? So that means what? So nothing is fixed. Okay? There are other points of view. Okay? So increased independence in thinking. So they are not that rigid. Now they can think for themselves. So thinking here from concrete operational, we have the word rigidity. Now more flexibility. Okay, some openness to new ideas. Some openness to new ideas. Okay, okay. This is a better idea. Things like this. Awareness of emotion, beginning to be aware that, oh, I'm now angry. Okay, well, this is very important to be aware of one's emotions, and we will talk more about this when we come to EI, emotional intelligence. Increase inductive inquiry. Remember, inductive is what from bottom up. See, okay, say this is what, let's say, now this is a principle. Say you have one specific information regarding the principle, then also here also specific information, right? Then you may have one example here. More example, all right? So inductive reasoning is what? Inductive reasoning is what? The direction is what? From, say, here to here. This is inductive, okay? So this is what? Okay, inductive reasoning. Inductive inquiry, okay, that type of thing, right? Now, so learning all the example specific information to what? To deduce the principle or to infer the principle, to arrive at the principle, right? So that is what Bruner's discovery learning, right? Ausubel, just the other way around. Ausubel is from here. Right? So the direction is deductive. So Ausubel's expository teaching is what? Is from here to here, here, everything done by the teacher. Bruner's expository learning is that what? Bruner presented all this, presented this, and what? Let the students discover this. So that's inductive learning or inductive reasoning, right? So from here on, that's deductive reasoning, all right? So somewhat inductive inquiry. So teachers should provide one, yes, direct method, okay, plus some indirect method, all right? Some indirect method, okay? So direct method, transmitter of knowledge, expository teachings. Some indirect method will be what? Discovery learning, inductive inquiry, that type of thing, right? So teaching method that adapts to student differences. So some will be mostly what? Mostly at the concrete operational. Some they are they are in one model stage +1. So here you have both of these methods here, so that most students would be able to fit in. Okay, so teaching method adapt to student differences. Now, you may ask, how do we do that in a classroom situation? Well, remember cooperative learning. You may want to divide the class into subgroups. And then you should be able to adapt to student differences, and you put all those low CL students in one table, okay, all those moderate CL in another table, and then say you have, of course, you have many tables, okay? So then you can then you as a teacher, you can adapt to student differences, sensitive to students' emotional needs. That is to say, teachers should be able to read the students' emotion and be sensitive or responsive to their emotional needs. Some level of autonomy and self-directed learning as a goal. Well, simply because of increased independence in thinking. So teacher may want to nurture this independence in thinking. Okay, therefore, some level of autonomy and self-directed learning as a goal. Here, Bloom's level 1 to 4. Okay, when appropriate. I remember you should you become a teacher, or you want to understand educational psychology a lot more, you should memorize the Bloom's taxonomy. Okay, so this is knowledge, okay, knowledge, comprehension, application, analysis, synthesis, and finally evaluation. Okay, remember in our discussion, debates are still raging on regarding these two. Okay, some researchers argue that this one should be the top. Okay? This one should be the top because this one is considered to be more difficult than evaluation. But some researchers argue just the opposite, because in order to do this, evaluation involves the previous 5 stages, okay, that type of thing. But then this is Bloom's taxonomy, okay, of educational objectives. So memorize this, okay? It will help you a lot. All right. So Bloom's levels 1 to 4 when appropriate. All right. High CL, high conceptual level, as to say, students are capable of from operational thought. Okay. All right, so take a look at the characteristics. There is evidence of integration and synthesis, both in complex intellectual and also interpersonal arenas. Interpersonal means between people. The interpersonal means socialization, right? Okay, and the students, and remember here, Fumble thought hypothesis testing and successive approximation in decision making. They're capable of doing this here because we're capable of forming hypotheses. Okay, so therefore, they are also beginning to be able to do successive approximation, one step at a time, right? Capable of processing own and others' views simultaneously. So that is important, multitasking, right? So that is the development of perspectivistic thought, all right? So this is a big, a giant step over the past 2 CL, the 2 CLs, okay, 2 conceptual levels, okay? low CL, moderate CL, but high CL is a giant step forward. Teacher provides one, mostly, of course, indirect method. Indirect method, discovery learning. Right? So low structure teaching material. Okay, because students are no longer operating with rigidity. They are quite good now. So low structure teaching method, substantial freedom for developing own assignments for discovery learning. For discovery learning, as I say, they may want to they may want to write the critique. Okay, they may want to compare two methods, that type of thing. All right, less frequent feedback because of their independence in thinking. Okay, more abstract and intrinsic rewards. Abstract, okay, and intrinsic rewards. So they don't need anything solid, okay? Just a sense of satisfaction because, oh, I could do this, okay? That type of thing. All right, open-ended questioning. They're no longer looking for closure. Right? Open-ended questioning. They're no longer longing or looking for closure because just like in concrete operational state, all police are good. And when they grow older, they know that there are good cops and there are bad cops, all right? That type of thing. All right. Greater student participation, like what? Like Harry Potter's Hermione, they throw her hand in the air, okay, to participate, answer questions or ask questions, simply just to participate. So higher levels of Bloom's technology, Bloom's system can be used. That is to say here, application, analysis, synthesis, evaluation, all of this could be used. All right. So that is that is good, that it was high ECL, right? Okay. Take a look at Hunt's principles of attribute treatment interaction, ATI, to start where the learner is. This is what William James mentioned. Is that right? What William James, back into 1890. So William James, the father of American psychology, he was very insightful. So to start where the learner is, that is to match or start teaching in concert with the student's level of development. All right? So the next one, gradual mismatching. I think what we discussed this here, all right? Matching, gradual mismatching. So it's just to what? It's just to provide a small mismatch, to create a small knowledge disturbance. So gradual mismatching means gradually shift to a slightly more complex level of teaching in order to help the students grow, in order to help the students develop. All right. So the principle fits fits the modal stage plus one phenomenon, characteristic of human beings, intrinsic drive to learn. All of us, we have a built-in intrinsic drive to learn, as long as it is not overwhelmed by laziness. All right. So the slightly higher level of complexity, as I just mentioned, creates a kind of knowledge disturbance or dissonance. And in resolving the dissonance, the students end up with a more complex level of thinking, and they experience developmental growth. Right? So that's good, right? Matching, mismatching, Hans' idea, excellent, all right? Now, take a look at the purposes of ATI, okay? To avoid what? To avoid boring the students with a single tried and true teaching method. So you don't use what? Expository teaching for what? Low level, moderate, medium level, high level students. You don't do that, right? And to avoid the problem of either overmatching or undermatching, so we pay attention to gradually shifting what the teaching method, is that right? Shifting to a more complex level of teaching, okay, in order to help the students grow. Take a look at this graph here. So this is what? This is comprehension of academic content. Okay. Low comprehension, high comprehension. Teacher structured material, or that should be teaching what structure, okay? Should be teaching structure, okay? All right, now, low structure, high structure, okay? High structure means what? The teacher dictates everything, is that right? Low structure is what? Open-ended questions, okay? Here, closure, all right? Now, low CL, this is the line for low CL students. This is the line for high CL students, all right? So take a look here. Low CL students, okay, low CL students, comprehension of the content low, okay? If the structure is low, okay, the teaching materials having what? Having low structure. That means it is difficult for what? For the low CL students, is that right? But then if it is highly structured, the teaching material, highly structured, then even low conceptual or low CL students, they understand what? Quite a lot, is that right? So the low CL, then what? When you give them low structure material, they don't understand what the content. As you increase the structure of the materials, better understanding. Now, that's for low CL students. For high CL students, high CL, no matter it's low structure materials or high structure materials, they have what? See, flat. They understand the materials no matter what structure the teacher uses. All right, good. Okay, take a look here. 2 qualifications to consider for use with what? ATI. So here, development varies according to domain. So that is to say what? That is the CL, low CL, high CL. We are talking about what? Low CL, high CL within a domain. Some high CL students may have low CL in other domains. For example, we have a high CL students in mathematics, But when it comes to English, maybe the student is low CL, right? That type of thing, all right? So a particular student may be an advanced thinker or learner in one area, yet not in another. This is typical of intellectual growth. Students who are what, fluent in English, very good in English, they may be what, they may what struggle in mathematics. All right. Okay. Anxiety, both external and internal affect was CL. So anxiety, external, like what? New materials, parental pressure, okay, all this from outside. Internal anxiety, for example, stress can be produced during what? Transitional stages of growth. Okay. Remember our discussion of identity formation. Okay. When we discussed what Erikson, stage 4. Okay. Puberty is accompanied by egocentrism, adolescence, okay, accompanied by egocentrism. Remember the personal favor, nobody could have this strength, that type of thing. And what the magical audience, okay? They think they are the center, they are the what, center of attention, okay? The whole world is watching them. So they are quite fuzzy with their what, appearance. All right. So lesson planning. Madeline Hunter's what? 7 steps. That's 7 fundamental components of lesson planning. Now, the purpose, her purpose, is to provide the teacher with a sequence of routes, or we call it routes, okay, or steps to follow as she teaches the material. All right, so take a look at the 7 steps. Anticipatory set. That is to say what? Relatively brief yet somewhat provocative beginning to gain attention. Okay, so that you want to increase the students' what, interest and motivation to learn what, the materials. Okay, now, for example, you talk about what, bullying. Okay, how do you prepare the anticipatory set or somewhat provocative beginning? For example, you say, what would you do if a big boy hits you on the face? Ha, ha. What would I do? Anyway, so Hunter suggests a relatively brief yet somewhat provocative beginning to gain students' attention. Right? So that was one. Another one is that all of a sudden the little girl stands up to the big boy. Okay, in the lesson on what dealing with bullying. Okay, say all of a sudden the little girl stands up to the tall boy, and when you're going to catch the class attention, what next? Would she punch him? Or you make an attempt to get the students to lean toward you with an orienting question. For example, look at me, I'm going to show you how to deal with this. Or that type of thing. Okay, so that's how you could draw the interest or just to stir up the interest of the students. All right. Step 2, presentation of the objective and purpose of the lesson. For example, you use one advanced or organizers. Okay? Sometimes what you want, you present what is about to be discussed. Sometimes even a brief summary, so that one just to orient the students to the content you're going to deliver. Remember what? Remember the story grammar. Okay, sometimes you present a picture so that what the students could what follow. Then input, your method of teaching. What is it? A lecture, inductive inquiry, interpersonal discussion, or synthesizing teaching. Right? That's your choice. Okay? Modeling, a demonstration accompanied by verbal description of what you want your students to do in order to facilitate their understanding of the input. So that is modeling, basically a demonstration, right? Okay, checking for understanding. Okay, of course, how do you do that? You ask questions, right? For low CL class, you ask what? You ask concrete questions and what with the closure, yes or no, or this is good, this is bad, that type of thing. With the high level student, you ask what? Open-ended question, and what you ask questions that may not have what a definite answer. Guided practice, that is what the students do the activity under your direct supervision. So the level of complexity, of course, varies according to the CL of the student. Okay, now guided practice, classwork, or in a lab or a laboratory. Finally, the last step, independent practice, which can be what? Can basically what? Be thought of as a test of the first 6 steps. So here too, the level of complexity varies according to the CL of the student. So here, homework, classwork, okay, all right. So now, these steps, 7 steps, they do not follow an invariant sequence. Steps can be skipped, combined, or modified if the situation calls for it. All right? But these are the what? These are the what? The 7 fundamental components of lesson planning. All right? So that's Madeline Hunter. Very good. Thank you.